Hey friends, Happy New Year, or as happy a New Year as you can have when you've just been placed into another national lockdown as we have here in England. And other parts of the UK have also had very tight restrictions placed on them because of the new variant of this virus that's going around. But we do have vaccines as well being rolled out. We've got the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines both being rolled out at the moment, which is fantastic. So hopefully that will start to turn the tide. But for the next few months, it's still going to be very difficult at the very least. So I hope you all stay well, look after yourselves and everything as usual. And I hope you were able to have a nice time over Christmas in whatever way the restrictions in your area allowed. My mother and I had a nice relaxing Christmas indoors. I mean, we've been in semi-lockdown all year anyway, so I mean, even these latest changes don't really affect us, and we were able to just get everything we needed over Christmas, and we had plenty of food to enjoy and found plenty of things to watch and stuff like that. So this is a summary of my favourite things that I've been enjoying as per usual. I'm not going to mention absolutely everything that we stuffed our faces with or watched on the TV or online, stuff like that. Just the favourite things, really, the main things. And the blog post that goes with this will have a lot more detail. I'm not going to go into excessive detail in this video or it'll go on forever. So I'm just going to summarise things here, and then you can go to the blog post if you want even more information. There's going to be links in the description as per usual. Nothing here is sponsored, and any gifts we had were from friends and relatives, not from the companies behind the products concerned. So there is no outside influence into what I'm saying about things here. So yeah, I'm just going to crack straight on with it, and I hope you enjoy it as always. So as I say, we enjoyed lots of food over Christmas, which I know many people didn't, and I would strongly encourage you to donate to something like the Trussell Trust or FareShare or any other kind of food bank charity in your area. Nobody should be going hungry in this day and age, so please make sure you try and support those who need it. But Mum and I did eat well. We made sure that we ordered our stuff nice and early, and we got pretty much everything we ordered, which was fantastic. From Sainsbury's, we had a lovely turkey, of course, and we had a 3-bird roast as well, and we had all the trimmings, pigs in blankets and stuffing balls and all the roast potatoes and vegetables, Yorkshire puddings, all that kind of thing. We also had some nice puddings from them as well. Their Taste the Difference Billionaire's Roulade was really nice, and we had a New York cheesecake from that range as well. And we also tried mince pie ice cream, which was quite nice, actually. It was quite different to usual, as you can imagine. And we got ourselves some chocolates to nibble on as well, some celebrations and some Cadbury's Heroes. And my workmates sent up a couple of cartons of Quality Street as well, which was very kind of them. And we had a couple of Lindt Advent calendars during December as well. So we were well fed on chocolate, that's for sure. And we had cakes as well. I had a couple of Tunis cakes over the Christmas period, which are quite hard to get hold of. They don't tend to release them until, very, very close to Christmas. It's basically a Madeira cake with a big slab of chocolate on top, essentially, and a little bit of marzipan fruit in the middle. And Mum had a couple of iced fruit cake bars. One of them was from Sainsbury's. The other one was in a box we got from my aunt. She actually gave us a Food and Fizz gift box from Marks and Spencer's, which had a lot of nice stuff in it. One of the things in there was clementine and cranberry Bucks Fizz, which I had to drink on New Year's Eve. And it was nice to have something a bit different that I wouldn't normally buy, so that was good. It wasn't Mum's sort of drink, so I just had it myself. Then we also did an order from Greendale Farm in Devon as well, because they do really nice meat. And we got their medium-sized meat selection box that they did for Christmas. So in our box, we got a nice big boneless turkey breast joint, which we managed to spread out over 5 days worth of dinners for Mum and I, so that's 10 dinners. And we also had some turkey sandwiches as well, so there was a lot of meat on there that we were able to get nice chunky slices out of, which was fantastic. And they gave us a nice beef joint as well, and a gammon joint, and there was sausages and bacon in there, that kind of thing. So that's a really, really nice box, and as I film this, we still haven't finished it all yet. And we also ordered some mince pies, and we got some tray bakes as well with like Millionaire's shortbread and stuff like that in it. So we ate well from them too, and we've still got various little bits and pieces left over that we're going to be finishing during these first few weeks of January, so it's really lasted us well, all this stuff. So then moving on to disability stuff, and during December I took part in Accessible Advent on social media, as did a lot of other people. This was created by Ginny Butcher, and basically each day I posted about something that would make my life much easier, more accessible. So things like audio description, large print, pavement parking and other obstacles, and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a whole post on my blog where I've gathered all those little bits together from each day into one big blog post. So go and check that out, and check out the other things that people have been posting about as well. It might open your eyes to some of the things that people need. Sometimes it's just the simplest things that can be changed that can make a big difference and make people's lives a lot easier. It was also the International Day of People with Disabilities during December as well, so various things were obviously going on for that. One thing was that BBC Click, the technology programme by BBC News, had a special episode about assistive technology. So Lucy Edwards was on there looking at the LiDAR function on the iPhone 12, which can tell you how far away people and objects are. And there was also a bit on gaming accessibility and things like that. So that's quite an interesting episode. Jeff Marshall, who's a railway enthusiast, dedicated a video on his channel to accessibility on the railways in 2020 with a special guest. So that was quite interesting to watch too. It was nice of him to feature that topic on his channel. There's an interesting new website that's been launched called Gene Vision in association with Moorfields Eye Hospital, and it's basically a resource for rare genetic eye conditions, including aniridia, where you can find out more information on these different conditions. It's like a Wikipedia for that kind of thing, basically. Sight Village, which is the exhibition that showcases products and services that are coming out for visually impaired people. I've got an online information event on January the 19th and the 20th online on YouTube, and apparently it's only going to be available there and then live because they're not going to keep the recordings up afterwards. But they did have an event in July last year, and they have still got the videos up from that. A group called Eclipse Soundscapes have received funding from NASA in order to fund their project into making research into solar eclipses accessible for blind and visually impaired people. And congratulations to Rugby League captain Kevin Sinfield for raising over £2.5 million for motor neurone disease with his marathons challenge. He did 7 marathons in 7 days, so that's fantastic. Well done to him. So moving on to theatre, and there are a few audio-described shows that my mother and I both enjoyed. Top of that list has to be A Christmas Carol by the Old Vic. We've been to see that before in person, but this year they did it online, and every show they did was audio described and captioned, which is fantastic. They've been doing that for all their in-camera productions, and it worked really well. They had adapted it for online streaming really nicely. They had dealt with the social distancing issues really well by using split screens to keep characters on screen at the same time, and they had other little visual tricks to get around it as well, like having a door frame in the way so you couldn't see that people weren't actually shaking hands even though it looked like they were. Little tricks like that. So yeah, that really worked well. The performances were lovely as always, and there was a bit of music and dance and stuff like that in there as well. It was a full-scale production, just kind of done for online streaming rather than an audience in the auditorium. I also saw an interview that Dermot O'Leary did with Andrew Lincoln, who played Scrooge in the show. And that was really interesting. It was a nice, informal, laid-back interview, very chatty, conversational, and it was quite insightful. And then as a surprise at the end, they had a bonus performance from a lady called Rachel Harper, who not only has worked at the Old Vic as a member of front of house staff, but is also a very talented performer in her own right, and she performed Santa Baby while doing impressions of various different people. So she sang it in the style of Marilyn Monroe, Adele, Britney Spears, all sorts of other people. So that was very cleverly done. And then Mum and I also enjoyed Christmas at the Snow Globe with audio description, and this was a performance from the Globe Theatre with Sandy Toksvig, and basically she and her friends, including a fairy, put on a little Christmas show in this empty Globe Theatre auditorium for a little boy who was sad that the theatre wasn't open. And it was very sweet and fun, and there was some nice music and visuals in there and stuff like that. So that was a really sweet little show. That was good. And then we also saw the Royal Variety performance on ITV as well, which was also audio described. And I recorded it so we could skip the adverts and the acts that we weren't that keen on. But it was a nice selection of people. You know, Jason Manford was great as the host, and they had Gary Barlow and Frozen the Musical and all this kind of stuff. Stephen Mulhern was there doing some magic. Joe Caulfield did a bit of comedy. But the best thing was Michael Ball coming on at the end to perform You'll Never Walk Alone with Captain Tom Moore over the audio. He wasn't there, obviously, on the stage, and they had an NHS choir there as well. So that was a really powerful performance. And of course, now at the start of 2021, we've lost Jerry Marsden from Jerry and the Pacemakers, who made You'll Never Walk Alone famous. So it's very sad that another big star of the music industry has left us. So then moving on to theatre that doesn't have audio description, and the funniest thing I saw during December, and one of the funniest things I saw during the year without a doubt, was the Movie Nights In by Mischief Theatre. These are the same people who do the Goes Wrong plays in the theatre, like Play That Goes Wrong and Magic Goes Wrong and the Comedy About Bank Robbery, that series of plays, and also the Goes Wrong show on the TV, which I'll come back to a bit later. And basically on these Movie Nights In, they take ideas from the audience on film genres and locations and other silly things that should happen during this story, and they make it up on the spot basically. And there's a guy called Oscar sitting there who is kind of watching it on a DVD, as it were. He can pause the action to commentate on it, he can fast forward and rewind things, he can jump to different scenes and all this kind of stuff. So he's always keeping the action moving and throwing in little surprises as well, just to keep it exciting and keep the variety up and stuff like that. It was really good fun. We had a musical set on a cruise ship in space. There was a teen vampire horror. There was a murder mystery set in a church where all the characters were animals. There was a fantasy horror set in IKEA where the flat pack furniture attacks you. There was a spy thriller set in a rainforest, including a romantic relationship with a koala. And there was a period drama about some lovers in a convent as well. So there's quite a variety of things going on there, but it just shows you the kind of variety of things you can have. And they're back later in January, so if you want to go to one of their shows or do the whole lot, then do check them out. I can recommend them. And then elsewhere, the National Theatre very kindly uploaded their Dick Whittington pantomime to YouTube for free for a few days, because they'd obviously only been able to open for a few days before they had to shut again. So it was very kind of them to put the show online for everyone to see for free. If you missed it, you can see it on their National Theatre at Home service. They've got various other shows on there too, some of which are audio described and have British Sign Language available, and they've pledged to expand that to other productions as well, which is fantastic. And all the shows are captioned as well. And then there's also a nice video on YouTube of Brian Conley doing the curtain call speech at the end of the Christmas Carol final musical they were doing, and they were only open for like one night. So it was a very kind of moving moment for them, really, because it was great for them to be back on stage, but then there was also sadness at having to shut again so soon. So yeah, he gave a lovely speech. He's a great entertainer, Brian Connolly, so he knew kind of what to say and everything. Yeah, it was just a lovely moment. So then moving on to sci-fi and fantasy, and Doctor Who was back for its annual special, of course, Revolution of the Daleks, and that was good fun as always. It was great to see Captain Jack reunited with the Doctor, of course. We've been waiting for that for a while, and it was a shame to see Graham and Ryan leaving as companions, but it felt like the right time. It felt like their story couldn't really go any further. But Yaz is staying on, and there's also going to be a new companion played by John Bishop in the next series, which they've already started filming, so I'm really looking forward to that too. And I also bought the Steelbook edition of the Blu-ray for Series 7 as well that came out during December, because I'm building up my collection of those. There was also an online choir of Doctor Who fans who got together to perform a special version of Abigail's song from the 2010 Christmas special, and that came out really, really nicely. And then there were a couple of Doctor Who quizzes online as well during December, which were great fun and were raising money for charity. David and Georgia Tennant hosted a quiz for Marie Curie, whose nurses do a fantastic job, so it was well worth raising money for them. And they had lots of special guest stars from the show as well, including former doctors and Russell T Davies and Billy Piper, people like that. So that was really good fun. And then Jay's Virtual Pub Quiz, which is a channel that's been running all year since the lockdown started, got Billy Piper and Matt Smith to present a Doctor Who quiz as well, raising money for Refuge, the domestic violence charity. So both very good causes, both great fun quizzes. And then another sci-fi fantasy type show I bought during the month was The Demon Headmaster on DVD. And this is a classic show from the 90s, a classic children's show. It's very, very rare that I buy a children's show for my youth, because most of the things I saw back then I'm no longer interested in watching as an adult. But this I'll make an exception for, because it was a great show. It was even nominated for a BAFTA at the time. And it's just stuck in my mind ever since. And it holds up well. It's a bit dated maybe, and the effects are a bit ropey sometimes, but it's still got good humour in there. There's still good tension in there. The stories are fun and everything. And the actors in there are really good. I mean, Terence Hardiman is fantastic as the Demon Headmaster, who can basically hypnotise almost everybody and has these big plans to take over the world by controlling everybody. And he's brought down by this group of youngsters who he can't control properly, who have formed this gang called SPLAT, the Society for the Protection of Our Lives Against Them, led by this girl called Dinah, who has arrived at the school and discovers what the headmaster's all about and everything, and they all work together to bring him down. Dinah's mother is played by Tessa Peake-Jones, who is best known as Raquel in Only Fools and Horses, and Danny John Jules is in the first series as well, playing a game show host. So I'm glad I got those. It brought back some nice memories, and the shows are still fun. I've never read the original books on which those shows are based by Gillian Cross, but I'm sure I'll get around to reading them one day. But I did see the new series from 2019, which is basically an updated sequel to the original. So it's set in a new school with a new headmaster, but the basic premise is still the same. He's still trying to hypnotise everybody, and there are a group of kids who are trying to stop him. But there are some nice callbacks to the original series as well. So Dinah and Rose from the original series reappear, played by different actors this time, but it's still nice to see the characters back anyway. And Terence Hardiman does make an appearance as the original headmaster as well in the final episode, which is great. And they are doing a second series, so I might watch that out of curiosity just to see how the story continues. I don't think I'd buy this new version. It's just one of those things that's interesting to watch once. But it's nice that the franchise is being brought back for a new generation. As for movies, I didn't really watch many over Christmas, but I recorded some that I might watch at a later date. But on Disney Plus, I did decide to watch the Home Alone films again, the first 3 films in the franchise, because it's a very appropriate title at the moment, Home Alone, and I haven't seen the films for a little while, and it's kind of mandatory to rewatch them every few years because the first 2 in particular are classics. I only really watched the third film because it was also there, and I thought, well, I couldn't remember if it was quite as inferior to the first 2 as I remember it being, but it was. It's not as good as 1 or 2, but it's not as awful as 4 and 5 are either. I'm not going to bother rewatching 4 and 5 anywhere because we know they're awful, but it's 1 and 2 that are the key ones in the franchise. They're still as fun as ever. And then Mum's been watching the Carry On films on ITV3 on Christmas Day and Boxing Day. They basically filled the schedules with Carry On films and the 3 on the Buses films and a few other little bits and pieces. So I basically recorded most of it because most of it had audio description. She hasn't been able to see those things for a while because they didn't have description on the TV. You don't get it on the DVDs, so we didn't bother buying them for that reason. So to be able to see those films with AD has been really good because she hasn't been able to watch them for a long time. It's been nice for her to watch something a bit different and just, relive some of the old comedies that she used to watch. Mum and I have also started listening to an audiobook together while we have our dinners this year because I was very kindly gifted The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman, which is a book I was planning to get at some point anyway. So, Mum and I were both interested in listening to that. It's basically about a murder that takes place in this quiet retirement village, and this group of people are trying to solve it, this group of old people. So it'll be interesting to see how that story pans out. But it's very well written so far. There's a nice little bit of humour in there and some nice little modern references and stuff. So then moving on to stand-up comedy next, and I attended my first ever live online gig. This was for Frank's Fund, which is in honour of a young boy called Frank who died from bone cancer. Comedian Maisie Adam went to the same school as him, so she became the patron for this fund. She hosted a show in person last year, but this year it was online. She basically got on some nice guests, including Angela Barnes, who was the best of the night, and Russell Kane and Jade Adams. And then there was also music from the Quarantinis as well. Plus there was a big raffle with M&S hampers and teas, coffees, beers, all that kind of thing, and an auction for a signed Chelsea shirt and a French holiday cottage. I didn't win any prizes, but I enjoyed the night. It was good fun. It was a good laugh for a good cause. And then Sarah Millican, who does the Join In event on Twitter on Christmas Day to make sure that people are connected if they're feeling a bit lonely, which is great. She very kindly uploaded her full Homebird show from 2014 to her YouTube channel in December. She's also got a couple of her older shows on there as well that she uploaded earlier this year and late last year. And on Amazon Prime Video, I can also watch her 2 later shows for free as well, because I'm an Amazon Prime subscriber. So I thought, well, while I can get to all 5 of her shows for free, I may as well watch them all. I've seen 1 or 2 at least on TV in the past, but it's been nice to see them all properly because I hadn't seen any of them in a while. And I'll probably get the DVDs because they were very funny. A couple are in a box set together and the others are available singly, so I'll probably get them next time I do an Amazon order. And then there wasn't a lot of stand-up comedy on TV that interested me, but there was a show called Secrets of the Apollo, which was going behind the scenes of Live at the Apollo with various comedians talking about appearing on the show, stuff like that. So that was quite nice. And then in terms of other comedy, going back to Mischief Theatre, and there was a new Christmas special from the Goes Wrong show where they performed The Nativity, which was typically farcical and very, very funny. But also online on Amazon, they released their oldest Christmas specials, Peter Pan Goes Wrong and A Christmas Carol Goes Wrong, which had never been released on DVD yet. And I also watched their Christmas special from series 1 of the Goes Wrong show last year. So there's a lot of Christmas goodies from those people again. They're great shows. And talking of people making fools of themselves, obviously Taskmaster had its New Year's treat, which featured a bunch of people who aren't comedians for a change. Christian and Guru Murphy, for instance, and John Hanna and various other people. So yeah, that was good fun to watch. And of course, in 2021, we've got Series 11 to look forward to, which has already been filmed. That's due out in April. And there's also the Champion of Champions special featuring the winners of Series 6 to 10. So yeah, we've got plenty to look forward to from Taskmaster this year. It was also good to see Dawn French returning as Geraldine Granger for the Vicar of Dibley. She did a few lockdown specials where she was basically doing little sermons to her parishioners online at certain dates during the pandemic. So that was quite good. It was nice to see Hugo back in there as well. And she did a lovely tribute to Alice as well in honour of Emma Chambers, who died a couple of years ago. So yeah, it was a nice little series, that was. And there was also a nice new episode of Wurzel Gummidge starring Mackenzie Crook. It's not the sort of series I'd buy, but it is a nice, easygoing series to watch with very nice visuals and everything, and the story is quite fun. So yeah, that was nice to see that back for another special. I also saw the 30th anniversary celebration of Have I Got News For You, which was a nice behind-the-scenes documentary. We got to see footage from the pilot, for instance, and from Alexander Armstrong auditioning to be the permanent new host before they decided to just stick with guest hosts, and various other little bits and pieces that we learned from the making of the show, so that was good. And then on Netflix, there's a great spoof documentary called Death to 2020 by Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones. These are the same people who did Black Mirror, and we're in weird times when even Black Mirror couldn't predict this year. So yeah, it's a great spoof documentary. It really hits the nail on the head a lot of times with its observational humour, and there's some really big stars in there as well, like Samuel L. Jackson and Hugh Grant, Tracy Ullman and Diane Morgan, and Lawrence Fishburne is the narrator, people like that. So that's a really good show too. And I also enjoyed new episodes of my usual comedies that I watch regularly, like Not Going Out, which was the last episode featuring Bobby Ball before he sadly died earlier in the year, and they've got a new series coming out this year as well, which is great. And Would I Lie to You and QI and The Last Leg, all that kind of thing. And there are new episodes of some of those shows coming out in January as well, which is great. And there's also a new series of Staged beginning as well in January with David Tennant and Michael Sheen, and the DVD box set of series 1 and 2 is coming out in February. And then Mum and I have also been enjoying I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue on the radio as well. The first 2 episodes of this new series had Tim Brooke Taylor in the last 2 episodes before he sadly passed away from COVID. And then the rest of the episodes have been special lockdown editions where they've had 3 people on each team rather than 2 in a virtual audience. And then The Unbelievable Truth is coming back this month. And we also know that Just a Minute is coming back with guest presenters following the sad passing of Nicholas Parsons. So there's still going to be our usual Radio 4 shows to enjoy during the year. And then on DVD, in terms of comedy, I bought Completely Bad News, which basically features both comic strip episodes featuring Mick Mail and Adrian Edmondson and the rest of the members of the spoof metal band. I'm not a huge fan of the comic strip series in general. general. A lot of the episodes don't appeal to me, but I like these particular two. They're really funny, and among the extras is their deliberately awful version of Bohemian Rhapsody as well, which was approved by Brian May because he actually helped them to produce their record as well, which is really cool. And I also got a live CD of a couple of concerts they did as well. They were originally due to be part of a box set, the DVD and CDs, that actually went to the wayside when Pledge Music, the crowdfunding service, went out of business in 2019. It looked like the box set would never be produced. It did eventually come out late last year, but then it was rubbish in the end. You know, all the reviews have made it very, very clear that it didn't deliver what was originally promised, and what was there was of very shoddy quality, so it wasn't worth getting the box set in the end. So I'm glad I waited for the reviews and just bought the DVD and the CD separately. You know, they haven't bothered remastering the DVD or anything, and the booklet's impossible to read, but the quality of the footage is good enough. You know, it's still enjoyable. So it's not the treatment that Bad News deserved, but it's better than nothing, and I'm glad I got it. And then finally moving on to music, and I published some big Queen posts during the month as part of my 50th anniversary series. There were 3 parts looking at all the tracks on their Night at the Opera album, and then a bonus post of covers of Bohemian Rhapsody, of which there are a lot, and a lot of them are very good as well. And then there are various other Queen related videos that are online during the month as well. So Peter Freestone gave some nice memories of what it was like spending Christmas with Freddie, and it sounded like it would be really good to be a Yuletide celebration in Freddie's company, because he makes sure that everyone is having a good time and is well looked after. There's also the lovely festive song One Beautiful Christmas Day, which is the new release by Kerry Ellis and Brian May. That's really nice. And they also did a little performance on Instagram as well for New Year, performing It's Gonna Be Alright, a new version of that, although the sound quality wasn't great, so hopefully they're going to do a proper studio version of that. And then Brian and Roger also performed on a Japanese TV show as well, with Yoshiki and Sarah Brightman performing a song called Endless Rain for New Year's Eve. Then moving away from Queen, there are a few shows on BBC 4 that I enjoyed as well on a musical theme. So one was a series called The Sound of TV by Neil Brand, which was a documentary looking at the power of music in TV, be it in theme tunes or jingles and advertising things, or just scores that are used in series. And it was really interesting. There's some nice insights in there from the people who were involved with the shows. And the first episode in particular was interesting because it was dealing with theme tunes for shows like Doctor Who and EastEnders, Game of Thrones, The Simpsons, all that kind of stuff. Even if you don't like the shows, you know, a lot of the theme tunes are iconic and you know them well anyway. And there was some nice little tidbits of information about how the theme tunes were made and composed and things. But the other episodes were good as well. There was also a nice documentary that Mum and I both watched about the Shadows at 60, celebrating the 60th anniversary of this classic instrumental group, and they interviewed Hank Marvin and Brian Bennett, and Brian May gave his input as well. And there was also a nice programme showcasing some of Cliff Richard's performances on the BBC as well. And then Mum and I also watched a couple of shows featuring Dusty Springfield as well. One was an episode from our old show Dusty, and she had Scott Walker with her as a guest. And then there was also a nice compilation of Dusty Springfield's performances from the BBC. And then online, Peter Jackson has posted a sneak peek of his documentary about the Beatles called Get Back, which is due out later this year. So that's looking really interesting. I'm looking forward to that. And then there were some fun comedy songs over December as well. So the Horn Section released their Christmas Family album, which is a nice collection of silly songs. And then the Ulster Fry have made a spoof advert for an album called Now That's What I Call a Corona Christmas, which is very funny. And it's a shame the album hasn't actually been created, because the parodies they've put in that video are very good. And then there's also various charity videos as well, of course. There's a whole list in my blog post. I won't go through them all here. But there's the West End Singers singing Christmas Again, The Show Must Go On, to raise money for their friends in the theatre world. There's Keeping the Dream Alive by the Rock Choir in support of the Mental Health Foundation. There's Christmas of Hope by Musicians Together, raising money for Help Musicians. But the one song I do want to mention is Don't Stop Me Eating by Lad Baby. They are big YouTubers. They've got a huge number of followers, and for the past couple of years they've reached #1 with their silly songs about sausage rolls, raising money for the Trussell Trust, the food bank charity, and they've done it again this year with their latest song Don't Stop Me Eating, which makes them only the third act to have 3 consecutive Christmas #1s behind the Beatles and the Spice Girls, and the only novelty act ever to do so. So it's a big kind of achievement for them. As I said earlier, nobody should be going hungry, so the fact that they're raising money for this worthwhile cause is fantastic. They've even launched sausage roll flavour crisps with Walkers this year, which I haven't tried, but I imagine they're quite good, so maybe at some point I will try them. But yeah, well done to them for using their platform to such good effect. And then there are a few other Christmas songs I've listed in my blog as well, if you want to go and check them out too. And I've also got playlists as well on my channel. I've got a Christmas playlist of songs that I've found, and I've got lockdown playlists of songs by choirs and other people. So, you know, I'll link to some of them in the description, because that'll give you a sense of the various different pieces of music that I found during the year. And yeah, that's it. That's all I have to mention. Thank you very much for watching that. I hope you found things in there that were enjoyable and of interest to you. There's a lot more information and links in my blog post, so do go and check that out as well. January is clearly going to be a much quieter month than December was, which is normal anyway, but even more so now we're in lockdown and everything. So there's a few new series of some of my favourite TV shows coming out, and there's the Mischief movie nights and one or two other things I'm planning on watching as well. But Otherwise, I'm not sure there's going to be a lot to mention in my next favourites video next. So if I don't think there's going to be enough to warrant a video, I might kind of save my favourites till the following month and do 2 months together, but we'll see what happens. There might be lots to mention. In any case, there's other stuff on my blog you can enjoy as well. I'm going to do a 2020 review, just summarising some of my favourite things from the whole past year, because there were some highlights despite it being a horrid year. And there's my old journal post I'm going to be sharing as well. So we're up to 2005 now, sharing some of my posts from that year when I'm getting into my new career. So hopefully you'll find them interesting every Thursday. And at some point I'll be doing another Queen review post, which I've got to work on for their next album, A Day at the Races. So there's still plenty of things to come up on my blog as well. In any case, please stay safe and well, obey the rules and everything. If you're offered the vaccine, please take it. Let's get out of this as soon as possible. And yeah, that's it really. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe as per usual. Please stay safe and well, and I will see you for another video at some point very soon. Bye for now, and Happy New Year.